Today's episode of the Ramp It Up podcast contains explicit language and may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener's discretion is advised. Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to the Ramp It Up podcast with your host, Ronell Sinuis.
Are you ready to ramp it up?
Ramp it up, ew!
Hey, yo, ramp it up, B.
Girl, ramp it up! Ramp it up!
The Ramp It Up podcast.
Hey, you need to ramp it up.
Ramp it up.
Welcome back to another episode of the Ramp It Up podcast. I am your host, Ronell Sinus. This is officially episode 1 of our 5th season. I know I've been away for quite a long time. Allow me to apologize. A lot has gone on since towards the end of 2023. Had some health concerns, had some surgery, a couple personal matters to attend to, some professional as well. That kind of put me in a position where I could not put out any episodes, but here we are in the second half of 2024, and I have the rest of the year to put out some great episodes for everyone. Hopefully you've all been doing well. Your year has been going well. I can't believe it's already July. Like, the year has flown by already. But gotta say, it hasn't been great being away from everyone and not putting out some of our episodes and just content. Truly enjoy some of the interviews we do here and just interacting with our listeners. So again, forgiveness, please. Promise not to leave you all for that long ever again. We're going to kick off July. I do know June has passed. It was Men's Health Month, and also Father's Day was celebrated, and I had the opportunity to sit down with a couple great gentlemen, and we're gonna share their episode starting today with a Mr. Felton Brown. Felton is a quad that's been in my area for a while, like literally, like he lives a little bit further than me. I'm in Miami Gardens. He's in the Opelaka area, and I've been wanting to have him on the podcast for some time. Very involved in his community, and just another, no pun intended, but stand-up gentleman that I've had the opportunity to come across. So yeah, he is not only a father, but he's a husband, he's a business owner, and we'll get to hear more about Felton and his spinal cord injury journey during the interview. But, you know, he was actually a really good guy and very motivating, and he does speaking engagements as well. So without any further ado, we're going to jump right into today's interview with Mr. Felton Brown. And on today's episode of the Wrap It Up podcast, I'm here with a gentleman that's kind of been in the wheelchair area of South Florida for a while now. We've come across each other on Facebook. We actually have a few people we know in common, but we never had the chance to meet in person. So I got to say welcome to Felton Brown. Mr. Brown, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, Ronell. Thank you for having me on your podcast, bro.
No, definitely it's a pleasure. Like I said, it's been a long time coming. I think it was like in season 2 when we were talking about Father's Day. I borrowed some of your pictures, you know, and since then I was like, man, I got to have you on. And with Father's Day just right around the corner, I was like, perfect chance to circle back and have you join us.
Right. Absolutely. I'm here now, man.
So Felton, with Father's Day coming around the corner, I wanted to sit down with a couple of fathers who are wheelchair users like myself. Many people have the misconception that you can't have kids after an injury or you can't be an effective father. And you know, after being in my chair for about 8 years, I've met some amazing fathers out there. So I definitely wanted to come back and chat with you and have you share some of your insights with our listeners here on the podcast. A little bit about Felton for those who may not know Mr. Brown. Felton is a dynamic, ambitious, and faith-driven individual from the great city of Opelaka. I'm from Miami Gardens. We ain't too far, 305 either way. He's an inspiring motivational speaker, a thriving small business entrepreneur, and most importantly, a devoted husband to Joy Brown and a loving father to their remarkable daughter, Nia. Now, at the age of 15, Felton faced a life-altering moment when he suffered a traumatic spinal cord injury at the cervical level on October 15th, 1998, during a high school football game. The diagnosis of quadriplegia was both terrifying and devastating for him and his family. Nevertheless, Felton's unwavering faith and resilience set him on an extraordinary journey of triumph over adversity. After high school, he earned a bachelor's degree in business administration from the University of Phoenix, and later a master's degree in entertainment business from Full Sail University. As an entrepreneur at heart, in 2021, he partnered with Brandon Jones to establish Alpha International Transport LLC, a 3PL freight brokerage logistics firm, contributing to the flourishing business landscape. Recognizing the transformative power of his own experiences, he wholeheartedly embraced the idea of being a positive force in the life of others, nurturing his dream of becoming a beacon of motivation and encouragement for all. Felton, that was a lot being said, but I have to congratulate you on a lot, because getting hurt at 15, I mean, that's when you were a teen. You think you're invincible, you're playing football, versus some of us who got injured like myself when you're 30 or two, very different things. So before getting into your injury, like, tell me a bit about who Felton was in his younger years, where you're from originally, a little bit of your background.
So I would say originally, I'm really from Cutler Ridge. I spent the first 5 years of my life there, and then my family moved up north, and we resided here in Opelaka, and we've been here ever since. This is my community. I love my community. My community loves me, and yeah, this is my roots, man. And as a kid, running around Opelaka, in the late 80s, early 90s, it was a pretty rough neighborhood, right? So we learned how to survive those conditions, did some good things, did some not so good things, learned from each of those situations, and used those experiences to build my character today. So that's pretty much what my life was at an early age, man, just kind of the same old thing that most young adolescents and teenagers go through. It's just that in my particular situation, in my early teens, I wind up having a life-altering experience that I believe didn't set me back, but it actually grew me in so many ways.
Oh, that's an interesting perspective. What high school did you go to, if you may ask?
Yeah, so I went to Highland, Miami Lakes, man.
Oh, okay. Oh, my cousin graduated from out there.
Yeah.
Well, he was like class of 96, it was a while ago, but still. All right, go, dope. So now you were saying your injury happened during a football game. I'm assuming you were playing. What position did you play?
Yeah, so I was playing tailback on this particular play. I pretty much played all over the field. But on a particular play that I got injured on, I was playing tailback. It was a single-man backfield screen play. I caught a pass, made a sideline break, took a blindside hit, hit the ground, whiplashed my neck, and in that moment, my vertebrae were shattered.
At what level?
At the C4, C5, C6 level.
I understand, but now, again, you're a kid. I mean, let's be real. You're 15 years old. You're an athlete. A lot of us at that age, we start feeling ourselves. You think you're invincible. Did the idea of paralysis ever strike you, or did you even consider paralysis at that time?
Man, you know what? I had no idea what paralysis was. I'm gonna be totally honest with you, bro. But let me tell you something, man. Like this experience for me was something beyond this world. It was more of a supernatural experience, because I remember when I got injured and I was on that ground, the thought of paralysis came to me. I didn't even know what that was, right? But that thought came to me. I didn't even know what it was. And so in that moment, but at the same time, in that moment, I also felt comfort.
Okay.
Which is why even at a young age, at 15, I was never depressed about my injury. I was never down about my situation. I just kind of, picked myself up, soldiered on, kept my faith, and moved forward and grew with whatever situation it was that life was dealing me with. You know what I mean? Because like I said, I can't explain it, man. People They tell me all the time, you're strong and you're this, but hey, I had an experience and it's one that I can't really explain to others. It's just my own experience. So I really have nothing to be down about.
That's very interesting. I've had the chance to interview a lot of people through the podcast or just meet folks in therapy, and especially the traumatic injuries. Yeah, they're a little different from those who may have had paralysis due to birth or from surgery, but it's different when you've had a traumatic injury where you have the trauma of the injury itself, whatever the accident was, and then the resulting paralysis. And to hear that even in that moment you found comfort, it says a lot because as we go into further, I want to know more about your rehabilitation. Um, Psychotherapy is a big part of it because depression tends to find its way to kick in, anxiety, and just the worries of the world are now on your shoulders on top of now paralysis.
So it's amazing. You just said the term psychotherapy, and that's a big word that I think needs to be echoed throughout our community. So me personally, I never dealt with a psychologist from like when I was 15 years old, right? They tried to bring me a psychologist, when I was in the hospital, and I was saying, I don't need a psychologist, man. I'm good. I'm telling you, I'm all right. I just want to go to therapy. I want to get my rest. I want to go to therapy. I want to focus on my rehabilitation. So, so that's what we did. And just to be totally honest with you, I wasn't, depressed. I didn't have any issues with my thought process. I wasn't feeling suicidal or feeling down or worried or confused about what had happened to me. I was totally aware of it. So in that moment, I didn't need a psychotherapist. I didn't need anyone to talk to about, what it was that I was going through. But now in my current day, just me understanding, the mind, I'm now reading things on neuroscience and biology and psychology, and I'm understanding why I now need to speak to a psychologist, not because I have any issues in my head or any things going on, but because I faced, like you just said, some traumatic experiences. And you know what? I need to talk about it. I've never really talked about it. So I don't know what will happen when I talk about it, right? But I feel like when I do talk about it, there'll be some kind of healing release, because understanding the body and the mind and the biology, when you face a traumatic situation, then your body begins to create these chemicals that produce stress hormones. And then our bodies are now living in fight or flight mode. And that's just not a good space to be in. And that sets our body off in so many wrong ways. And then we can't fulfill our true purpose because of the stress hormones. So I'm working on that. So now I'm seeking a psychotherapist now just to kind of, will my way through whatever that part of my healing is.
And I'm just going to echo what you said as far as in our community, because for one, we're men, and men tend to not want to talk or don't really know how to talk or have a safe space to talk about our issues. Then in the Black or African American community, it's something that's looked down upon historically, and I'm gonna go further. I'm Haitian, so only crazy people needed a therapist. Only people who had issues, who were considered or quote unquote crazy. But the reality is, there's no difference between getting a checkup at the doctor and speaking with the therapist just to kind of work your way through those issues. So as you said, the body tends to follow the mind. And if the mind ain't right, you can't expect the body to be.
Right. And that's coming from someone like yourself, that has an intentional mind, right? You have an intentional process. So you would say that your body is following your mind. But, those that maybe see those that are opposed to psychology, their life is living in reverse. Their mind is actually controlling their body.
All right. Well, so now let's talk a bit about your experience in therapy. First, where did you have your physical therapy, occupational therapy in Miami?
Yeah, so I was at Jackson, man. I was over at Jackson Memorial. That's where, I was airlifted. I spent, I can't remember exactly how long I was there, but I remember I spent a few months in ICU there, and then I spent a few months in the rehab center over there. They have a beautiful rehab center now.
Yeah.
So anyway, I spent a lot of time. I spent some months there, man, and I met some great people that assisted me and gave me the tools I needed to have quality of life when I was released.
I'm sure we probably came across some of the same therapists, because that's where I did my therapy in 2017 after my injury. And yeah, I always tip off my hat to those down at the main campus of Jackson Memorial, one of the leading hospitals, especially now with the new Christine E. Lynch building. I felt a little sour about that because they started building that building right when I was finishing therapy. I was like, dang, y'all can get the new facility while I was here. But I mean, it's cool. I've been back. I spent a lot of time at the Miami Project, which I'm sure you know about as well. And again, just the team down there, they're very dedicated to not just curing paralysis, but to helping us as an individual. Like it became my only social outlet for a while, and we're going to talk a bit about that in a moment. But you know, after your injury, you know, you're not really hanging out as much as you are, even going to church or things like that. But you find yourself at therapy 3-4 times a week, or while you're inpatient, those people who are there become your friends and family. So tell me a bit about how you acclimated, again, being a young man, you're a teenager, being in therapy, and then post-therapy.
So you got to always go back to the support, right? Your support system. You know, your support system is what will sustain you and what sustained me, you know, early in my therapy journey and in my injury experience, right? My friends, you know, came together. You know, they encouraged me and they supported me and they even assisted me in therapy. You know, my family, you know, my community, you know, everyone kind of helped me out, man, just by having a positive outlook, you know, toward me, man. You know, man, when you faced with something like that at an early age, man, you know, I'm now just realizing how young I was. You know, man, because when you're 15, you still feel, no matter what age you is, for some reason you feel like you're grown, like you're big.
Yeah.
You could be 8 years old, for some reason you feel like you're big, like you're grown, right? So, but now as a 41-year-old man, I look back, man, you know, as I see my nieces and nephew all becoming teenagers, and when they turn 15, and I look at how tender and how young and how youthful and how delicate they are, and I'm like, yo, I was 15?
Yeah.
What happened to me? You know what I mean? But I soldiered through it, right? So yeah, bro. So therapy for me was always rigorous, always went hard. I was an athlete, so that's my release anyway, right? Exercising, working out, getting big, getting buff. I went hard right away. Even though I didn't have much movement, or I had no movement and no sensation for a while. And but these things started to gradually come back over the years. Every time I got something, I just made sure that I was vigorous with it, right? I remember when I had first got a shoulder shrug, and I would lay in my hospital bed and do 1,000 shoulder shrugs. You know what I mean? You know, that's just my way of attacking things, right? You give me some, I'm gonna take it the distance. You know what I mean? And so gradually, I saw progress in my body, and so I just continued. Whenever I got something new, I would repeat the process. You know what I mean? I would just go really, 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 really hard at it, and build on it and build on it until I get something new. Because I'm a big on faith. You know, big faith in the Almighty Yahweh God in heaven, the eternal Father. My faith is strong in Yahshua HaMashiach, Jesus the Christ, the Messiah. So with that, and with knowing the powers that are within myself that I have, then with my own will, as far as exercising the things that I can do, my due diligence. Yeah, I make sure I do that along with my faith in.
That says a lot, especially to a lot of listeners, and not just to others who may have an injury. But the reality is, you can have all the faith you want, but if you don't do your part, you're not going to get as far as you think you will. The reality is, there is a part. I mean, you ain't gonna get them abs if you don't stop eating the rice and the cheeseburgers and actually start running and do your exercise. The reality is, and I had a similar situation where, I mean, I'm laying in bed, I'm like, wait a minute, did my arm just move? And now you're focusing night and day on making that arm move more until you have more control on it. So that's amazing to hear. That it was a similar, and I think others that I've experienced life with, those of us in the Miami Project and the gym, once you were able to start lifting weights again, like me growing up, not growing up, but like in my 20s, all the guys were lifting, so I was lifting, we were maxing out. So for me, it was another therapy, getting back in the gym. I might not be lifting 315 no more, but at 30 was
Yeah.
something different for me. And
I'm
it felt like it was helping a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're now out of the hospital. Now it's about reacclimating and reintegrating into life. How was that like, getting back, whether into school or your family life or even your social life? Because again, you're probably close to 16 now, still a young man. How are you feeling?
Yeah, so man, that was probably the defining point, right? To implement back into society, but in a new reality, right? So it was tough, man. Psychologically it was tough. Um, Nobody knew it was tough because I'm just that kind of guy. Like you can't really see, when things are going, in a certain direction for me. I wear um, the things, that I face in life pretty well. Um, but man, if I could remember, man, I just remember just wanting to be isolated for a while, right? Had to figure some things out, right? Because like once you conquer the hospital stay and what happened to you, okay, you conquer that, but then like you said, you get released, and then now here's a new reality. So um, I just remember wanting to be isolated early on. Um, Still was receiving my friends and my loved ones, but I really didn't want to be seen because I believe it was the fact that because I was a gladiator athlete, right? At the time I got injured, I was about 6'2", 190 pounds. I was pressing 200 pounds. I was a big kid, and so, when I got injured and then my body pretty much withered away, I was skinnier and and I just didn't want to be seen that way. So I stayed inside, for the most part. I was doing homeschool when I first came home, and then I eventually started going back to school half a day. Um, so that kind of helped a lot, going back to school a little bit, right? Getting back in the mix with the friends and whatnot. And then, but the turning point in my outlook on life happened when a cousin of mine came down to visit me one summer when I was maybe like the 11th grade, maybe the 12th grade.
Okay.
A cousin of mine came down to visit me from Atlanta, and he wound up staying the summer. And I remember, I was just in the house all day. He was like, "Hey, cuz, man, come on, let's go outside." And I was like, "Okay, let's go outside." So we went outside, and life was happening outside, man. And that was inspiring. And from there, we went to the movies. We started getting things, Things started to happen, and that was a realizing moment that, hey, man, life is out here lifing. If you want to live, you better get out here where life is happening. So from that point on, man, he was like an earth angel for me, and I've been on the go ever since.
Yeah, I could really relate to a lot of that because, again, I was a big dude, not 6'2", 6'1", so you got me by an inch or so. But, hey, you're a physical specimen. I ain't have abs or nothing, but, you're confident in yourself. You're a big dude living life, and then you almost literally hit a brick wall. So now your self-confidence takes a hit, and I'm a very social guy, like out in the streets, life for the party type stuff. And now it's like, feel diminished. I wasn't speaking as loud or clearly because my diaphragm was affected. At the time, I had no arm movement, so I had to keep my arms crossed. So, you just didn't feel as confident. So I wanted to stay, not necessarily hidden, but, I didn't want to interact in the same way. And unfortunately, you lose some friends. Like, some people just aren't there with you through the whole thick and thin type situation. They're only there when things are doing great. So losing friends, and it was Kathy Herring. I don't know if Kathy was there while you were in therapy, but she was the rec therapist at Jackson. And I remember, if it wasn't for her taking us all out to a restaurant, I don't think I would have gotten as social as quickly. I think it would have happened eventually. But she took us all to Bayside. She rode the monorails with me. It was me, her, and a friend of mine. We're in the streets. We was at Bayside, and we all went to eat just at Chili's, like, just nice little chill spot. But that by itself gave me that confidence to be like, yo, I don't gotta stay home. I don't gotta just go to therapy and go back home. I don't even think at the time I was going back to church yet. But that's kind of what gave me the courage and the inspiration. Like, yo, life is happening outside. It doesn't get on pause just because you get injured. I think like 2 of my friends got married in the first few months. And I was one of those people that I'd have been cutting up at their wedding, but here I am laying at home. So it really gave me not only the courage, but the drive, like you said, to get out there and live life.
Absolutely.
So a big part of post-injury is dating. You're out of high school now. You're officially a man. You're in your 18s. And I'm sure during high school, there was some interest in some young ladies. What was it like, and what was your interactions when it came to being a young man in a wheelchair, showing interest in some of the ladies?
Oh man, so I've never had an issue with the ladies, man. I was thank God for that because we desire that, right? Like that's like a natural desire that we want. And I think anyone that maybe having issues with that because of their condition, I'm sure it's just your own, it's yourself. There's people out here that love, everyone, man. And if you have the right energy about yourself, then you can pretty much magnetically attract that one that is for you, right? So when it came to my injury in the girls, and I was never without a girlfriend. Like during my injury, I had a girlfriend. All throughout high school, I had a few different girlfriends. In college, I had girlfriends. After college, I had a girlfriend.
Hey, it didn't sound like you had any trouble at all. All right, bet.
Nah, no, exactly. And I'm married to a beautiful woman that I love so much. She is indeed my better half and my twin flame and my everything. She birthed me a beautiful daughter. And yeah, man, so I would say I'm blessed and favored in that light, brother.
The question that always comes up when I'm having this conversation, even personally or on the podcast, is how do you tell the difference between the girls who are just being nice to you because, oh, you're in the wheelchair versus, no, I'm actually flirting with you. Like it becomes like the line is already confusing, but now it's even more blurred now because, okay, they feel like the defenses are down. How do you make that move to get from, all right, I'm Felton, not just the guy in the wheelchair, but look at me as a man who's interested in you as a woman?
Well, first of all, I don't believe now I don't see now. This is just my personal opinion. I don't believe that should even be the approach, right? But the approach is to just be friendly and nice and in a person that wants to communicate and wants to, just be a naturally nice, friendly person. Then so wherever that goes, it goes. I mean, you can see a beautiful young lady, or a beautiful young lady can see a young man, and just to spark the conversation first, just to see if that clicks before we even go to even saying that, hey, I like you. I think I mean, you could think someone's attractive, and that can be the reason why you want to spark that conversation. But I think especially women enjoy a nice person and a great conversation. And if you can have a great conversation, if you can, have a stimulating conversation, depending on what kind of, woman, you're after and that you enjoy. You know what I mean? But for the most part, the conversation, man, can open a woman's heart in ways that nothing else can.
And that is actually real good advice as well. I think so many men in general, outside of being in a wheelchair or anything, just get so caught up on the gimmicks and trying to show out or spitting game or whatever it can be, but they forget to be themselves. You know what I mean? Just be your genuine person, interact respectfully with the person you're interested in, and let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah.
All right. So now, again, as we're moving forward, I'm just kind of going down the timeline. You already mentioned Joy. Can you tell me a bit about how you guys got together, and then, of course, how you had your beautiful daughter?
Yeah, man. So my wife and I met back in 2008. So we've been together for 16 years. And we dated, man. Like I said, we got to know each other for about 6 years before I decided to ask her to be my wife. So we spent a good time really getting to know each other and really getting to show each other who we were, right? Without, trying to make a bed of roses, right? Like truly who we are, right? Like we were in our mid 20s, about 25, 26, around that age. So we were kind of truly like at that moment of, okay, man, we better be thinking forever when you're dating now, right? I wasn't trying to be the guy, or she wasn't trying to be the lady that was out here. And no offense to anyone that is, but that's just what we weren't trying to be that person that was still trying to date, in our later ages. I mean, we were trying to find it now. Let's get serious now, and let's start planning now. And we built a family together. We wound up having our beautiful daughter. She came into our life after we had a few hiccups, in some pregnancies, man, and we stuck through them. But hey, man, we continued our desires to have children. And as when it comes to spinal cord injury, they'll tell you, that it's not likely that you have children.
Yeah.
Usually men with SEI challenges, their sperm motility is super low, or their volume is super low. So I went over to the Miami Project and got tested, and actually had great volume and great motility. So, thank God for that. So our journey to have children was right there. So we were blessed to have our daughter. We hope to have one or maybe two more. And yeah, man, we're a loving family, bro.
That's beautiful. And again, just being in the SCI space, first of all, one thing that it bothers me a lot is men tend to be the highest population of people get injured with spinal cord injuries. And you would think they are better prepared to have these conversations. And they're not. I was lucky to have a real cool OT, occupational therapist. So she talked a lot about sex and whatever, but there was only so much that she knew. And I'm like, well, with so many young men who are getting interested, why aren't they better prepared to talk about erectile dysfunction? Why aren't they better prepared to talk about fertility? Like, you have to join a study. There's no like prepared information. What they'll tell me myself. I mean, I was 30. I was in a relationship. I was like, yo, doc, this is important. Like, what's going on? Let me know. What can I do? What can I? And they were like, well, talk to your urologist. And that was like the majority of the information that they gave you. And I think they kind of leave you hanging because you either have to go figure it out yourself. I know people who've gone to extremes to figure it out, or they just went straight to fertility, end up having triplets. One of our homeboys from therapy, Alex, ended up having triplets, and that was not his plan, but he loves all three of them kids. So the reality is there's so much room for improvement for when it comes to, again, men and young men who've been injured, who are still interested in becoming dads in the future, or just being sexually active. Like, I think it's a large part of our therapy and our recovery journey that is not properly educated or paid attention to.
Yeah, I can agree with that, but I will say that um, yeah, maybe there's some more information that can be given. But I remember like when I got injured, and I wasn't even, like it wasn't even my focus. I didn't even want to know that wasn't my thought. I was 15. That wasn't my thought process at that moment. I had bigger things in front of me that I had to face. So, but I remember I think they had a sex education class at Jackson where you went in and you watched some videos and some different things. There was the information. And I was totally tuned out, man. I wasn't, man, sex was my least concern,
Yeah.
in that moment. And, but as I grew older, I just want to, reiterate, man, that my faith, I believe, is what brought me through all of those challenges, and through faith, I was able to not just use prescriptions and methods like that to achieve, the desires, but I was able to use myself, right? I was able to understand my own psychology, right? And this takes some work, it's not something that you do overnight and you're like, okay, we got it. But man, some things, that we can do within ourselves, man, if we seek and go that deep, that can bring about some results in our bodies that we want,
I'm gonna shoot you a text afterwards.
Yeah,
We'll
no
talk a bit
doubt.
more about that. But
Sure.
again, just focusing on being a dad. So now, how old is your daughter right now?
My daughter is 7, man.
Oh, that's a beautiful age. Still where they love you, no attitude. When the girls get teenagers, it's a little different. But so
Yeah.
now, have you ever had any apprehensions about being a father and being a wheelchair user at the same time?
No, man, let me tell you, man, fatherhood, bro, is the greatest thing, man, ever. Wheelchair or no wheelchair, fatherhood is the greatest thing ever. And I know this is a podcast to give, hats off to fathers on Father's Day in wheelchairs, but I'll say, man, in my home, Father's Day is every day. Right? We don't even celebrate Father's Day. I don't celebrate Father's Day. I believe Father's Day is every day. My daughter loves me, and she shows me she loves me every day. We spend time every day. We create memories every day. My wife as well. This is just our family dynamic. So when fatherhood came into my world, man, it catapulted me, man, to a new height of love, right? Of wanting to win, right? Of wanting to do it bigger, of wanting to heal, right? Of wanting to live longer, right? This is what fatherhood did for me, man. And my daughter, obviously you can think that maybe it can be challenging for, a father in a wheelchair. And if that's your mindset, I guess it can be, but it's just not my mindset. I don't see life as challenging. I see life as unique, right? Maybe I may do some
Yeah.
things a little different, but I'll get the same result. You know what I mean? So yeah, man, my wife has a strong belief in me, right? So even at a very young age of my daughter, I would take her with me by myself, right? I mean, she's maybe 6, 8 months, 12 months, a year, 2, 3 years. We would go off by ourselves, to the parks, and we'll be alone, and in those moments, I would talk to my daughter at an early age, even before she can respond to me, and let her know that I'm her dad. And this is the dad that God gave you. And I'm going to be the best dad. You know what I mean? In whatever conditions or experiences or situation that we're in, I'll be the best dad.
Wow, that's great. Wow. And just personally for me, there are some apprehensions, although it's no fear. It's just a thought process because of my level of injury and how involved that could be. But I've been an uncle since I was 6. So I tell people, man, I've been raising kids since I was a baby almost. And I know I've had some hard conversations with my nephews and nieces because when I got injured, I had a nephew as old as almost 30 years old down to a niece that was just born earlier that year. And in that spectrum, and I know they have questions. Kids are curious. Kids are ask, "Hey, what happened to you? Why are you?" And there's no filter, and they mean it. They're just curious, and they really truly want to know. And I've had to explain it on different levels to all of them. And so, what kind of questions have you received from her, and how have you approached it? Because clearly, there may be a difference between her dad, and maybe her friend's dad, but not necessarily in your ability or how you love her. But there are some apparent differences. How have you approached that?
Yeah, man. So my daughter, she's a she's a very curious kid, just like all kids, right? So she wants to know, but she's my biggest cheerleader ever, right? From day one, like I said, man, I've always been that athletic guy, so I continue to always work out. So she was born watching me do therapy, or she was born watching me with the active hand, scraps on my hand with dumbbells, and me literally, always being physical. So she's my greatest cheerleader. She understands that daddy is in this situation now, but that daddy has a vision of overcoming his situation. And she's been watching me overcome my situation since the day that she can perceive with her eyes. So she's encouraging to me, man, and uh, uh, she does. She was asking me a lot, like what happened, and then I would tell her, and then she would read because she's a great reader. She get to read the newspaper articles of her dad and who I was as far as an athlete and how good I was and how tragic the injury was. So she understands, that I was injured playing football. But then she tells me every day, Dad, get up, walk. I say, baby, daddy doing it. Come on. You know what I mean? And, and she assists me, with my therapy, both physical, occupational, meditations. She's like she's always, for example, I could be giving myself some stomach time, right? So I can give my backside a relief and just strengthen my front side and things like that. And she'll get on my back, man, and tell me to close my eyes. And imagine me giving her a piggyback ride. Yo, like this is major when it comes to psychology. You know what I mean? Like this is major when it comes to subject like epigenetics. If you're not, familiar with that term, I would tell you to get familiar with that term, epigenetics, and the power of psychology in the mind and having a true imagination and actually seeing, what it is that you desire and then expressing the emotion like it has already came to pass in order to see that thing manifest in your world. So she assists me like that, man. My daughter is a true champion because she's me and she's her mom. She's my DNA and she comes with the same spirit. So she's an amazing little girl, bro. And I'm sure one day you and I connect and you'll get to meet her.
Yeah, man, because first of all, she sounds bright. Like it takes a lot for a kid to be able to absorb not only the practical side of reading and everything, but the comprehension and just participating. I would say, I was blessed with just great nephews and nieces as well, and they've participated all in their own way, shape, or form. And there are always challenges, but I remember one of my younger nephews, and he was born 2 months after my injury, and he just all he knows is Uncle RC in the chair. Never saw me earlier. And there was a time we're in the living room, and he wanted to kick his little soccer ball, and he kicked it to me, and it landed like right in front of my foot plates because I have a power chair. And he was waiting on me like to kick it back, like, yo, it's your turn. Dad kicks it back. Now you got it. And, I just messed around and I just used the elevation function of my chair to kick it back. And that became our game. And the reality is that there are different ways of doing things. As you said, our interaction is unique. It might be a unique relationship that other parents might have with theirs, but it doesn't take away how fruitful and how beautiful it can be. So I got to say thanks for sharing that. And all our listeners listening who may have their own apprehensions, I'm not saying there won't be challenges, but that doesn't mean there aren't great solutions to those challenges as well. So thanks so much for sharing that.
Absolutely.
So now, as we're coming to a close, I want to talk more about what you're getting into. I know you have you're entrepreneur and you do motivational speaking. So tell me a bit, because you said you got into it in 2021. So, I mean, we're in the midst of COVID. The world's upside down. People lost jobs or people were looking for new employment. How did you have the courage and then actually start that new business?
So, man, let me give all glory to the Almighty Father in heaven. Man, it was a vision that I received, in my spirit for me to start this company with my partner, Brandon Jones. When you have a spirit to receive something and do something, then I did it blindly on faith. And, like you said, it was during the time when the pandemic was here and things were just not going so well. And to be totally frank with you, in the transportation industry, things are still shaking up, right? It's, things just aren't in the best conditions. There's a great freight recession right now, and companies like mine are actually falling apart. But we're sustaining ourselves. God told us to build an ark, so we're building an ark in the midst of not understanding why we're building an ark when things are so bad. But we're building this company as a startup. We're building it from the ground up. We're learning a lot, but this is, I believe, the greatest time to learn is during the challenging times. So we're learning so much about our industry and about our customers and the value that we should bring. And so we're building this thing. We're learning so much about technology, right? So we're building this company out, and the idea of building this company was so that I can and my partner in our company can assist the disabled community in getting gainful employment. So as a broker, I found success early in earlier years as a broker with my abilities, right? I had always been searching for a way that I can be a part of society, right? That I can contribute. Don't be too upset with me, but I'm one of the guys that actually wanted to pay taxes, right?
I'm right there with you, yo.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like I want to be I want to go and work. I want to contribute. I want to feel like, hey man, I'm a part, you know? So, I did a 1099 gig and I found some success as a freight broker agent. And I knew instantly that, hey, I can turn this thing into a business and also show others and teach others and give others opportunity and access to have the same, feeling that I have, from being a part, man, of working society. You know what I mean? So we're in our third year now, and we're still building the company. We're still a startup. We're still putting pieces together and building our customer profiles and just keeping our company in shape for when the industry is in a better position to receive us,
And again, as I said, I agree with you because the misconception is when someone gets an injury or a debilitating sickness, we just at home chilling, playing video games, soaking up all this big old Social Security money. For those who don't know, I've talked about it many times on the show. It ain't some big check that you just get in and you just living clean off. No, I think the system was created, and I agree with it, to assist those who are working to get back into gainful employ, or those who may need it long term, however it is. But for me personally, I wanted to use it to the extent that I need it, and I want to give back to society. I want to return to being a gainfully employed individual. Yeah, I might need some assistance with my health care or whatever that may be, but it's not for me to just sit at home and not participate in giving back to not only my community, to the country, and society as a whole.
Absolutely, which.
And you talk about giving back as well, not only through employing other individuals who have a disability, but you also talk about your community. You're giving back to your community. You guys just had the block party. And so it looks like you're very involved in everything. So I want to talk more about you giving back and then eventually getting into motivational speaking.
Yeah, man. So giving back is real big. I'm real big on giving back. My father was real big on giving back. I am indeed his offspring because I am real big on giving back. I believe on giving, man. Giving in order to receive. I'm living proof that giving, is the notion of planting seeds to one day reap a harvest. And I have been a recipient because my dad has given so much, while he was here on this earth. He's no longer with us. But, his giving has blessed my life in so many ways. Because of his giving, so many people come to me and give to me. Yeah. And, and assist me in ways that, I don't think would have been, So I'm big on giving. So, yeah. So we're here in the community. We had the block party here. So there's a group of us here in Opelaka. We call ourselves Neighbors First. And so basically the idea of the vision of our group is to just create a synergy in our community with the neighbors and with the members of our community so that we can come together and just really be neighbors, man, in all facets of what that means, right? That means raising issues together, right? That means recognizing issues. That means solving issues by creating solutions together. That means having fun and celebrating together. That means mourning when we need to mourn together. All of that, right? Just overall vibrating and stimulating community. So we launched our first block party was on June 1st. Man, we had a great turnout, man. A lot of the block, it wasn't widely known. We were just starting up. We had some small flyer marketing, some social media marketing, and just hey man, tell your neighbor to bring a neighbor, So some of the neighbors came out. We had some great food. We had a DJ, bounce house, face painting for the kids, dominoes, spades, chess. Oh man, we had a great time as a community, man. And just understanding what having a good time like that does to the psychology, man, because with the mental health state today, I just think the outdoors and really having that stimulating human to human interaction, outside of trying to have a way of life through work, right? But actually have a leisure human to human with, someone that you're getting to know, not just your close friends. It does so much to the brain, the chemicals that it releases in your body. I think it's healing and helps the mind and everything. So that was a good thing we did. I'm also part of an organization called Intentional Impact. It's a nonprofit that a few partners of mine started. We just got started with it this year. And again, that's just about having impact in our community across, the spectrum, right? Whatever impact we can have. This is what we're doing, motivational. We're teaching classes. Like right now, we just wrapped up our first cohort in Metro West Correctional Facilities, where we went in partnership with FIU and VIP Reentry to go in and teach the population the fundamentals and basics of supply chain and logistics. Okay. So we just wrapped up that first part, and we're looking to have that graduation soon, coming up in July. So yeah, man, and then also, just not to be long-winded, part of a great organization that has been doing some amazing things in Miami, man, and has been expanding across the globe, and that is Circle of Brotherhood, which is Black men solving problems in our own communities. So that organization, I'm sure you've heard of, has been really prominent in our communities, and I'm glad to be of this year's graduating class to be a part of the organization. I look forward to learning from the leadership there, so that we can not only use it, in that organization, but outside of it as well, and spreading it.
When you say giving back, you really mean it. And I agree, because
there's more to do.
Growing up, there was more neighborhood activities. And I think as we got older, that went away. And then COVID was just like the icing on the cake. That almost destroyed all communication between neighbors and stuff. And I think it's really missing in the lives of these kids and this generation. And just me, I still enjoy it. We used to do firecrackers. The whole block would come out, and it would be one dad or a few of the dads, and everyone's shooting firecrackers or barbecuing for everyone. And that's an art that's been gone for quite a while. So I'm glad to hear it. I hope some of our leadership here in Miami Gardens hear this podcast episode. We would love to create something like that, because we have some areas that need a lot of improvement here, especially for a wheelchair user. To get down to the park, I got to go around the whole block, and it's literally just up the street for me because the sidewalk ain't great. So there's a lot that we can get done to improve our communities as well. And as we close up, share a motivational word if you have, or something inspiring, just not only to the fathers, to the Black men, or just to everyone listening here on today's podcast.
Yeah, so I would say, so we're all dealing with some kind of challenge in life, right? We're all traveling uphill, right? We're all faced with obstacles and barriers that we have to approach in life. And I would just say that when that barrier you're faced with is in front of you, you have a few options. But the one thing I don't want you to do is stop, right? I would much rather you run through that barrier, jump over that barrier, go under that barrier, or go around it. But don't stop. Crush it.
Felton, I appreciate that. It's a word for everyone. And I do mean everyone. You don't have to be injured or in a wheelchair or at all to be able to do it, because quitting isn't the answer. I appreciate you. I appreciate your time today. We definitely have to link up. I mean, you down the block from me. We're not that far from each other.
Likewise, brother. Yes, sir. We're going to link up. Let's do
definitely.
it.
And like I said, we're going to have to talk on the side, because there's a lot more I'm sure I could learn from you. But thank you for joining me on the podcast today.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate you.
All right. You have a great one.
Peace.
Thanks for tuning in to the show. Connect with the podcast on social media. Check out our Instagram page at ramp.it.up.podcast or email us at rampituppodcast@gmail.com. Until next time.